I never believed houses could feel wrong. Not haunted, not cursed, just wrong. But the first night we slept there, lying in a bed that wasn't ours yet, surrounded by boxes that still smelled like cardboard and tape, I understood something I'd never been able to explain before. Silence has weight, and that house carried far too much of it. My name is Ethan Carter, and this happened the year my wife Lena and I bought our first home. It wasn't a dream house. It wasn't supposed to be. It was what people call a starter home. A two-story place in a quiet suburban neighborhood where every lawn looked the same and every mailbox leaned at the same tired angle. The kind of place where nothing ever happens. That's why we chose it. After years of apartment living, thin walls, noisy neighbors, sirens at night, we wanted peace. We wanted normal. We wanted a place where the loudest sound after sunset would be sprinklers clicking on and off. The realtor used words like safe, family-friendly, low crime. She smiled a lot when she said them. The street was a long, gentle curve with identical houses spaced evenly apart. American flags, basketball hoops, porch lights that turned on automatically at dusk like clockwork. Everything felt rehearsed. We moved in on a Tuesday. The neighbors on our right came over first, an older couple who introduced themselves within an hour of the moving truck arriving. They brought lemonade and asked polite questions about where we were from, what we did for work, how long we planned to stay. Normal people. The house across the street belonged to a man in his 40s who waved, but didn't cross the road. Friendly enough, busy maybe, but the house on our left, that house stayed quiet. No wave, no porch light, no movement. Its curtains were always closed, even during the day, not in a dramatic way, just enough to block the inside from view. The lawn was trimmed. The driveway was clean. A single dark sedan sat parked in the same spot every day. Someone lived there. They just didn't want to be seen. The first few days passed without incident. We unpacked, argued about where the couch should go, ordered takeout on the floor because we hadn't found the plates yet. It felt like the beginning of something good. Still, every once in a while, I caught myself glancing at the house next door. Not because something happened, because nothing did. On Friday afternoon, I noticed movement for the first time. Lena and I were bringing groceries inside when she stopped mid-step and grabbed my arm. "Do you see that?" she whispered. I followed her gaze. Someone was standing in the front window of the house on our left. Not fully in the light, just a shape behind the curtain. A man, from what I could tell. He wasn't waving, wasn't hiding either. He was watching. The moment my eyes locked onto the shape, it moved. The curtain shifted. The figure stepped back. Gone. Maybe he was just looking outside, I said. Lena didn't answer right away. "People usually wave," she finally said. I laughed it off. Maybe he's shy. But that night, when I locked the front door before bed, I checked the deadbolt twice. I didn't know why. Over the next week, we noticed him more often, always through windows, never outside. I'd see him when I left for work, standing in his living room, barely visible between folds of fabric. Lena swore she saw him once upstairs when she was checking the mail. Every time, the pattern was the same. We noticed him. He disappeared. It started to feel deliberate, like he was timing it. The first night I felt real fear was a Sunday. I woke up around midnight to use the bathroom. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that makes your ears ring. As I walked past our bedroom window, I glanced outside without thinking, and there he was, standing in his upstairs window. No curtain, no shadow, just him. He stood perfectly still, facing our house, his face angled directly toward our bedroom. For a split second, my brain refused to process it. It felt like seeing a mannequin and thinking it might breathe. Then he moved. Not suddenly, not aggressively. He simply stepped backward, out of view, like he knew exactly when I'd noticed him. I stood there longer than I want to admit, staring at an empty window. When I told Lena, I tried to make it sound like a joke. "Looks like we've got a neighborhood creep," I said, forcing a laugh. She didn't laugh back. The next morning, there was a knock at our door. I opened it to find a man standing on our porch, smiling. He looked normal, mid-40s, clean-shaven, casual clothes, the kind of face you'd forget 5 minutes after seeing it. "My name's Arthur," he said. "I live next door." So, he had a name. "I wanted to apologize if I startled you last night," he continued. "I was fixing something near the window and didn't realize how it must have looked." His smile never wavered. It wasn't warm. It was practiced. I thanked him for explaining, told him it was fine. Because that's what you do when someone gives you an excuse that sounds just reasonable enough to accept. When I closed the door, Lena asked me what he wanted. I told her. She nodded slowly. "Did you notice?" she said. "He never blinked?" I hadn't. I wish she hadn't pointed it out. Things didn't get better after that. They got quieter. No more sightings in the windows. No movement at all. And somehow, that was worse. Then came the sounds. The first time Lena woke me, she was shaking. "There's someone outside," she whispered. Half asleep, I stumbled to the window and looked down into the backyard. At first, I didn't see anything. Then I noticed movement near the fence. A figure, walking slowly, purposefully, not stumbling, not sneaking, searching. My heart started pounding. I yelled out instinctively, something stupid like, "Hey!" The figure froze. Then it turned and walked quickly toward the gate, slipping out of sight. I didn't go outside. I told myself it was a drunk neighbor, a wrong yard, a misunderstanding. But the next time it happened, I recognized the way he moved. And I knew. That was the night I realized something terrible. Whatever was happening next door, it wasn't curiosity. It was patience. And it was aimed directly at us. After the man left our porch that morning, the house didn't feel like ours anymore. The walls were the same. The furniture hadn't moved. But something invisible had shifted. Like the air itself had learned a secret and refused to tell us. For the rest of the day, Lena barely spoke. She moved around the house quietly, as if sound itself might travel somewhere it wasn't supposed to. Every now and then I caught her staring at the wall we shared with the neighboring house, her expression distant and tight. I told myself we were both just shaken. That night, we left the porch light on. Days passed. No movement next door. No silhouettes. No curtains shifting. Arthur might as well have vanished. And yet I felt him more than ever. It's strange how fear works. When there's a clear threat, your mind prepares for it. But when the threat disappears, your imagination fills in the gaps with things far worse. At night, every sound became suspicious. The hum of the refrigerator, the ticking of the hallway clock, the soft pop of wood adjusting to temperature. Each noise pulled me halfway out of sleep, heart racing, listening for something that never came. Lena started sleeping with the bedroom light on. She didn't ask. She just did it. I didn't argue. The first new sound appeared on a Thursday, a soft metallic scrape. It came from outside. I was brushing my teeth when I heard it, slow, deliberate, like someone dragging a tool across concrete. I froze mid-motion and listened. Scrape. Pause. Scrape. I rinsed my mouth and walked quietly to the window overlooking the side yard. The space between our house and Arthur's was narrow, barely wide enough for a person to walk through. At first, I didn't see anything. Then I noticed the gate. Our backyard gate was moving, not swinging freely. Someone was touching it. I felt my stomach drop. Before I could react, the sound stopped. The gate settled back into place, unmoving. I stood there for a long time, staring at nothing. When I told Lena, she asked one question. "Did you see his face?" "No." She nodded slowly. "That's worse. That night I dreamed of knocking. Not on a door. On a wall. 3 slow taps. Over and over. The next incident happened 2 nights later. It was after midnight when Lena grabbed my arm again, her nails digging into my skin. "He's there," she whispered. I didn't ask who. I already knew. I rushed to the window and looked down into the yard. This time, there was no mistaking it. A man stood near the fence, close enough that the moonlight caught the side of his face. He wasn't hiding, wasn't rushing. He was inspecting something near the gate. My chest tightened so hard it hurt. "Hey!" I shouted louder than I meant to. "Get out of here!" The man straightened slowly. He turned his head just enough for me to see his profile. It was Arthur, no doubt in my mind. I yelled his name. He didn't react. He simply walked away, through the gate, disappearing back toward his house as if nothing had happened. Something inside me snapped. I threw on shoes and ran outside, my heart hammering in my ears. The night air felt sharp and unreal, like I'd stepped into someone else's dream. The yard was empty. The gate was closed. I checked the fence, the latch, the ground. Nothing was stolen, nothing damaged, which meant he hadn't been there to take something. He'd been there to test something. I walked straight to his front door. Before I could knock, it opened. Arthur stood there, smiling, as if he'd been waiting. "Oh," he said lightly. "Everything okay?" "You were in my yard," I said. I didn't bother softening my tone. He laughed, a quiet, breathy sound. "Kids," he said. "They jump fences around here. I scare them off when I see them." "You walked through my gate." "Yes," he said easily. "That's how fences work." His eyes never left mine. There was something wrong with them. Not anger, not fear, but something hollow, like he was watching me from very far away. "You should get used to it," he added. "This neighborhood has patterns." I didn't respond. I just turned and walked away. Behind me, I heard his door close, softly. After that, Lena refused to open the curtains. She stopped going into the backyard altogether, and then came the invitation. Arthur knocked on our door one evening, holding a bottle of wine. "I thought we could be neighborly," he said. "Dinner tomorrow night." Lena's hand tightened around mine. I wanted to say no. Every instinct screamed no, but something told me refusing would make things worse. So I said yes. The next night, we crossed the invisible line between our houses. Arthur's home smelled faintly of alcohol and something sour beneath it. The lights were dim, the curtains drawn tight. He talked too much, laughed too loudly, drank constantly. At first, his comments were small, easy to dismiss. Then they sharpened. He talked about the neighborhood's history, about how things used to be, about people who didn't belong. Each word felt heavier than the last. When he finally admitted he'd been in our yard, admitted it proudly, Lena stood up. We didn't argue. We didn't yell. We just left. And as we walked back to our house, I felt his eyes on us the entire way. That night, we locked every door, every window. At 3:17 a.m., a loud crash exploded through the living room. Glass shattered. Lena screamed. I ran downstairs to find a brick lying on our floor, moonlight spilling through a broken window. No note, No message, just a warning. And across the street, for just a moment, I saw a curtain move. The police arrived 40 minutes after the brick shattered our window. 40 minutes is a long time when you're standing in your living room with glass in your socks, staring at a hole in your house that shouldn't exist. They took photos, asked questions, wrote things down. Arthur denied everything. He stood on his porch in slippers and a robe, pretending to be confused, pretending to be offended that anyone would even suggest he'd thrown a brick. "I was asleep," he said calmly. "You can ask anyone." There was no one to ask. The officers exchanged looks that said everything without saying anything at all. No witnesses, no cameras, no proof. Just fear. When they left, they told us to stay alert and call again if anything else happens. As if this wasn't already enough. We didn't sleep that night. Lena sat on the couch wrapped in a blanket, staring at the broken window until sunrise. I stayed awake beside her, listening to every creak, every shift of air, every imagined footstep outside. Sometime around dawn, she finally spoke. "He hates us," she said quietly. I didn't ask who. "I don't know why," she continued, "or what he wants, but he's not going to stop." She was right. I felt it too. This wasn't random. This wasn't drunken stupidity. It was focused. The next day, we went door to door. We didn't plan to at first. It just happened. Desperation has a way of pushing you toward answers you don't really want. The older couple on our right looked uncomfortable the moment we mentioned Arthur's name. The man sighed and rubbed his temples. "We were hoping he'd leave you alone." That sentence alone told me everything. They told us his wife had left years ago, that he drank too much, that he had a temper, that police had been called before, more than once. "Nothing ever sticks," the woman said. "He knows how to stay just on the right side of the law." Another neighbor told us something worse. "He watches," she whispered, glancing down the street. "Always has. People move in, people move out." I asked how many. She didn't answer. She just closed her door. That night, Arthur didn't hide. He stood in his upstairs window again, lights on, curtains open, watching us. He didn't disappear when we looked back. He smiled. The harassment escalated quickly after that. Trash knocked over. Footprints near our back door. Scratches along the side of the house, like someone dragging something heavy across the siding. Every time we called the police, the answer was the same. No proof. And Arthur knew it. One evening, he stood on his porch as I pulled into the driveway. "You should have chosen a different street," he said casually. I froze. He took a sip from a bottle hidden inside a paper bag. "Some places remember who belongs," he added. Then he went inside. Lena started packing without telling me. Just essentials at first. Clothes, documents, photos. When I asked her what she was doing, she didn't stop folding. "I don't feel safe," she said. "And I don't think we're meant to." I wanted to argue, to say we couldn't let him win. But deep down, I knew something worse was coming. And it came sooner than I expected. I woke up one night to the sound of whispering. Not outside. Inside the house. I sat up slowly, my heart pounding so loud I was sure it could be heard through the walls. Lena was asleep beside me, breathing softly. The whisper came again. Low. Close. I couldn't understand the words. I reached for my phone, turning on the flashlight, and swept the beam across the room. Nothing. But when the light hit the wall we shared with Arthur's house, I saw it. A small hole, no bigger than a coin, perfectly round, fresh. Something on the other side shifted, and I realized, with horrifying clarity, he wasn't just watching us anymore. He was listening. I didn't sleep after I saw the hole. I sat on the edge of the bed until morning, watching the wall like it might breathe. When the sun finally came up, the hole was still there, clean, deliberate, and placed at exactly head height if someone were lying down on the other side. Whoever made it had known precisely where to drill. I showed it to Lena. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just whispered, "He's inside our life now." We called the police again. They came. They looked. They sighed. "There's no way to prove where it came from," one of them said. "It could have been done before you moved in." I wanted to punch him. Arthur denied it again, of course. He even invited the officers inside his house. He smiled the whole time, calm and cooperative. That made it worse. We decided to leave. Not someday. Now. Lena called her sister. I requested emergency time off work. We started packing everything we could fit into the car. That's when the knocking started. 3 slow taps. Not on the door. On the wall. The same wall with the hole. Tap, tap, tap. I froze. Lena dropped a box of dishes, porcelain shattering across the floor. The knocking stopped. Then came the voice. Muffled. Low. Right on the other side of the wall. "You're making a mess." My blood turned to ice. I shouted for him to leave us alone. I don't even remember what I said. Threats, pleas, noise. Silence answered. We stayed with neighbors that night. When we returned the next morning, the front door was unlocked. I know for a fact we locked it. Inside, nothing was stolen. But things were moved. Our wedding photo was face down. The bedroom light was on, and the hole in the wall was larger. He hadn't taken anything. He'd rearranged us. That was when we found the notebook. It was hidden in the laundry room, tucked behind the water heater. Old, leather-bound, filled with handwriting that wasn't ours. Dates, times, notes. Lights off at 11:43 p.m. Argument at 7:12. Window open again. Pages and pages of our life cataloged. At the back of the notebook was a list of names. Most of them were crossed out. We recognized one, the couple who lived here before us. We never stayed another night. Police reports, lawyers, excuses. None of it mattered. We packed what we could and left the rest behind. As we drove away, I looked back one last time. Arthur stood in his upstairs window, watching, smiling. Months later, we learned the house was empty again. Another family moved in. New curtains. New cars. Same silence. Sometimes, late at night, I still wake up convinced I hear 3 slow taps. Not on a wall, but inside my head. 2 parts remain. Leaving the house didn't end the fear. At first, we thought it had. We moved 2 hours away into a small apartment above a bakery. Thin walls, noisy mornings, the smell of bread instead of silence. For the first time in months, Lena slept through the night. So did I, until the email arrived. It came from an address we didn't recognize. No subject line, just a single sentence in the body. "You forgot something." Attached was a photo. Our old living room. The broken window had been replaced. The furniture was different. New people's things. New lives. But the angle of the photo told me exactly where it had been taken from. Arthur's upstairs window. I didn't show Lena right away. I wanted to believe it was coincidence. That someone found the notebook and was messing with us. That fear was making patterns where none existed. Then the second email came. This time, there was more text. "They don't hear the walls yet." "You did. That's why you mattered." I felt sick. We contacted the police again, in a different city, with different officers. They listened politely. They couldn't do anything. Arthur hadn't broken the law, at least not in a way anyone could prove. And technically, we were no longer involved. "Block the address," one officer suggested, as if fear obeys settings. Weeks later, curiosity betrayed us. We drove back. We told ourselves we just wanted closure. Just one look, just proof that we weren't imagining things. The house looked normal. Fresh paint. New mailbox. Children's toys in the yard. The neighbors waved. Arthur's house was empty. For sale. I felt relief. Real, physical relief. For the first time in months. Then we spoke to the woman across the street. Her face drained of color when we asked about Arthur. "Oh," she said slowly. "You didn't hear?" "Hear what?" She leaned closer. "He wasn't just watching you. He never was." She told us everything. Arthur had been part of a quiet group. Nothing official, nothing written down. Just longtime residents who believed the street belonged to them. They shared keys, shared schedules, shared walls. Arthur was the watcher, the listener. He recorded habits, weak points, fear responses. When people left, someone else always moved in. The house didn't stay empty long. It never did. Arthur didn't choose targets. The street did. That night, in our apartment, Lena finally saw the emails. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She said something worse. "They're still watching," she whispered. "They always were." As if to confirm it, my phone buzzed again. A new message. No photo this time. Just words. Walls exist everywhere. Some are thinner than you think. I checked every lock, every window. But deep down, I knew something terrifying. We didn't escape a house. We escaped a system. And systems don't stop just because you leave. We stopped talking about it. Not because it stopped mattering, but because saying it out loud gave it shape, and shape gave it power. Lena and I moved again after the emails. Farther this time. New city, new names on the mailbox. No social media, no forwarding address. We tried to become invisible. For a while, it worked. Life returned in pieces. Groceries, commutes, weekend routines. The illusion of normalcy stitched itself back together slowly, like a scar closing over something still infected. But there was always something underneath. A hesitation before sleeping, a pause before opening curtains, a silence that felt like it was listening back. It happened on a rainy Tuesday night. The bakery downstairs had closed early. The building was unusually quiet, the rain muffling everything outside. Lena was asleep. I was half awake, staring at the ceiling, counting the sounds. Drip, hum, drip. Then I heard it. 3 slow taps. Not loud, not aggressive. Polite. They came from the wall behind our bed. The same rhythm. Tap, tap, tap. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I told myself it was pipes. Old buildings have pipes. I'd heard that excuse before, and I clung to it like a lifeline. Then came the voice. Soft. Familiar. Almost kind. "You should get some rest." It wasn't coming through the wall. It was coming from inside the room. I don't remember screaming. I remember the light coming on. I remember Lena sitting up. I remember the room being empty. No open door. No shadow. No sign anyone had been there. But on the nightstand, between my phone and my wallet, was something that hadn't been there before. A coin. Perfectly round. Pressed flat on one side. I knew exactly where it came from. We left before sunrise. Didn't pack. Didn't plan. Just drove until the road felt unfamiliar enough to breathe again. That was years ago. We live quietly now. Carefully. And sometimes, late at night, I think about the street we left behind. The houses, the walls, the people who believed they belonged more than anyone else. I wonder how many families have lived there since us. I wonder how many noticed the silence. Because here's the truth no one tells you. Monsters don't hide in the dark. They hide in routines, in neighborhoods, in walls thin enough to listen through. And once you hear them, once you know they're there, they never really stop watching.